Sun Valley, not so very long ago. There were sunbeams in the snow.
In 1939, Ernest Hemingway took his first trip to Sun Valley, Idaho, when the chairman of the Union Pacific Railroad extended an invitation. Alongside other celebrities, Hemingway was one of the few to experience the new Sun Valley Lodge. During this trip, Hemingway fell in love with the incredible access he had to his favorite activities. Idaho's hunting and fishing were just some of the reasons for his numerous Sun Valley getaways to follow. Hemingway had just broken up with Pauline Pfeiffer, his second wife and mother of his two sons Patrick and Gregory, and was soon to marry his third wife, Martha Gellhorn. He sought refuge in Sun Valley while pursuing his other two passions, hunting and fishing. While in Sun Valley, Hemingway worked on portions of For Whom the Bell Tolls, Islands in the Stream, The Garden of Eden, and A Movable Feast. This trip was the start of his 22 relationship with his secret escape. In 1959, Hemingway moved into his Sun Valley home, purchased by his close friends Chuck and Floss Atkinson, with his fourth and final wife, Mary Welsh Hemingway. Modeled after the Sun Valley Lodge, this house was the first house he'd ever owned in the United States, and the house in which he ended his life. In 1961, Hemingway was diagnosed with hereditary hemochromatosis, otherwise known as HHC. HHC was a leading cause in the severe depression that Hemingway suffered from. Early in the morning on July 2, 1961, 6 months after his diagnosis, Hemingway placed his back against the wall of his living room, pointed his shotgun at his head, placed his big toe on the trigger, and his fourth, and at the time, current wife, Mary, had decided it fitting for Hemingway to be buried in Idaho due to a strong connection to the area. While the Hemingway family had initially wanted a ceremony to take place in the Lady of Our Snows Catholic Church, this proposal was rejected by the priest for the sin of his suicide. Eventually, the priest agreed to lead the ceremony outside in the Ketchum Cemetery, where Hemingway and his loved ones now rest. Hemingway is buried beside his best of friends upon request. Expectedly, his headstone sits right next to Mary Welsh, his fourth wife, along with two of his three children, Jack and Gloria. Jack was a fly fisherman, conservationist, writer, and Hemingway and Hadley Richardson's first son. He was a lieutenant in World War II, and in Sun Valley, he is most famously known for his preservation of Silver Creek. Gloria's tombstone states her original name, Gregory Hemingway. Gregory later became Gloria in 1973. In Gloria's life, she experimented with many drugs, which eventually led to a drug overdose, taking her life in October of 2001. Patrick Hemingway, Hemingway's second son, is 89 years old and still alive today. He attended Harvard University and graduated in 1950. Shortly after, he moved to Tanzania, where he lived for 25 years before moving to Montana. He was, like his father, a big hunter. Next to Hemingway's grave lies Tilly and Lloyd Arnold. Starting out as Hemingway's hunting guides, these two inevitably became two of his closest friends. When looking mere feet away from the grave of Ernest Hemingway lies the tombstone of a man named Gene Van Gilder, a good friend of Hemingway's who can be partially credited for bringing Hemingway to Sun Valley, as he was the publicist that would take pictures of Hemingway in exchange for free room and dine. The two quickly became close friends, hunting and fishing, pastimes that both Gene and Hemingway very much enjoyed and excelled at. Gene was young at the time of Hemingway's arrival, being only 24 years old in 1939. This was, unfortunately, also the year of his death. This tragic event occurred in a hunting accident when Sun Valley staff member Dave Benner shot Gene in the back. This theme of connecting with locals ran throughout Hemingway's life in Spain, Italy, and Cuba, as well as in Idaho. To Hemingway, the purest sense of a place was found through interactions with the locals that lived in the area, and not from the tourists who filled the resorts. An example of this is seen in For Whom the Bell Tolls, when the protagonist, Robert Jordan, says, while speaking with a Russian comrade about the political opinions of people throughout Spain, "The closer to the front, the better the people." He values independence as well as the lack of enforced laws. In freedom, Hemingway thought one must be diligent in action in order to be successful. This diligence is known as Hemingway's heroic code and is seen in the protagonists of his work. Those surrounding Hemingway in the Ketchum Cemetery are those who earned his lifelong respect, admiration, and love.